I was halfway to the podium when a chair scraped behind me sharp enough to split the moment open. At my own graduation ceremony, my sister rose and pointed at me like she was delivering a verdict. She cheated her way through college. She stole my designs. No whisper, no hesitation. Just a clean public execution. The entire glass atrium stared. My parents froze. I kept walking, holding together 4 years of work with nothing but breath and spine. My name is Claire Hart. Before I tell you what I whispered to the dean that made him smile, I want to know, where are you listening from today, and what time is it there? Drop a comment below. I love seeing how far our community reaches. I did not stop. I did not flinch. I did not turn around to see the smug satisfaction I knew was plastered across Olivia's face. Instead, I let the rhythm of my heels against the polished floor be my only response. Click, click, click. A steady metronome counting down the seconds until her destruction. The silence in the atrium was suffocating, a vacuum where only her accusation existed. She cheated, she stole, words designed to strip me of everything I had built, right here in front of the industry elite, the faculty, the people who held the keys to my future. But panic did not come. That was the strange thing. For months, I had lived in a state of low-grade terror, waiting for the other shoe to drop, waiting for Olivia to realize I was not playing her game anymore. Now that it was happening, now that she was screaming at the top of her lungs in a room full of glass and silence, all I felt was a cold, clinical clarity. This was it. The moment she overplayed her hand, the moment she stepped into the trap I had spent 3 agonizing months building. I reached the podium. Dean Matthews stood there, his face a mask of professional concern, his eyes flickering past me to the chaos unfolding in the third row. He held my diploma, a heavy, expensive piece of paper that represented thousands of sleepless nights and caffeine-fueled drafting sessions. I took it from his hand. His grip was firm, grounding. I looked him in the eye, lifted my chin just an inch, and leaned toward the microphone on the podium, not close enough to broadcast to the room. Just close enough for him to hear. The evidence is in the portfolio case under my chair, I whispered. Tab 4. The dean blinked. For a second, he looked confused, then, his gaze shifted down to the black leather case tucked beneath the faculty seating. He looked back at me, and the concern in his eyes dissolved, replaced by a sudden, sharp understanding. He knew, we had not spoken about this specific moment, but he knew something had been brewing. He checked the file mentally, processed the instruction, and then, slowly, a grim nod. It was not a smile of joy, it was the smile of a man who appreciates a well-executed plan. He signaled to the side of the stage, not to security to escort me away, but to the officers standing near the exit. He pointed, discreetly but unmistakably, toward the third row, toward Olivia. I turned then, just slightly, to watch. Olivia was still standing, chest heaving, waiting for the validation she always received, waiting for our parents to rush to her side, for the faculty to strip me of my honors, for the world to rearrange itself around her grievances. Instead, she saw 2 uniformed officers moving through the aisle. She saw the dean's nod, and for the first time in her life, she saw that the script she had written was not the one we were acting out. I walked off the stage, the diploma heavy in my hand. The air in the atrium had shifted, the shock was still there, but the target had moved. People were not looking at me with suspicion anymore. They were looking at the girl screaming in the third row with a mixture of pity and alarm. I did not feel triumphant. I did not feel happy. I felt efficient, like I had just corrected a structural flaw in a building's foundation. It was done, but to understand why I did not scream back, why I had a portfolio of evidence ready under a chair, you have to understand the architect, you have to understand the silence. I did not grow up expecting my sister to be my enemy. If anything, I spent most of my childhood trying to figure out how to exist in the same space without suffocating her. Olivia was the sun. She burned bright, loud, and demanding. She was an influencer before the term existed, curating her life for an audience of 2, our parents, Richard and Cynthia. They were image-obsessed in that specific, old-money Chicago way where appearances were a form of currency, and Olivia was their best investment. I was Claire, the quiet one, the one who liked graph paper and drafting pencils more than parties and networking. I learned early on that in a house built on noise, silence was the only way to survive. I became an architect of my own behavior. I built walls, not out of brick or stone, but out of compliance and invisibility. If I stayed in my room, if I got good grades, if I did not ask for anything, I was safe. But safety is a dangerous thing. It teaches you to tolerate the intolerable because it is familiar. I watched Olivia take credit for things she did not do. I watched her charm her way out of trouble while I was lectured for not supporting her. I watched her drain our parents' attention and resources like a black hole, leaving nothing but dust for anyone else. And I said nothing, not because I was weak, but because I had learned that speaking up only gave her more ammunition. Learned helplessness is a term psychologists use. It is when an animal is subjected to repeated adverse stimuli that it cannot escape. Eventually, the animal will stop trying to avoid the pain. Even when opportunities to escape are presented, it learns that it has no control. So it gives up. For years, I thought that was me. I thought I was broken, but looking back, I realize it was not helplessness, it was fortification. I was not giving up. I was digging in. I was building a fortress. Every time I swallowed an insult, every time I let her take the credit, I was laying a brick. I was learning her patterns. I was studying her structural weaknesses. I was waiting for the moment when the ground would be stable enough for me to move. I did not know it then, but I was preparing for a siege, and 3 months before graduation, the siege began. It started with digital arson. That is the only way to describe it. I was in the final stretch of my degree, working on the submission for the Pritzker Fellowship, an $80,000 grant that would launch my career. It was everything I had worked for, my ticket out, my independence. I had spent hundreds of hours on the final renders, intricate three-dimensional models of a sustainable housing complex that I knew, had a chance of winning. I woke up one Tuesday morning to a notification on my phone, cloud storage sync error. I did not think much of it, technology glitches. I sat down at my desk, coffee in hand, and logged into my drive, empty. The folder labeled Final Thesis was gone, not just the files inside, but the folder itself, deleted, scrubbed. Panic is a cold thing. It starts in your fingertips and works its way up your throat. I checked the trash folder, empty. I checked the version history, wiped. It was as if the last 6 months of my life had never happened. I sat there, staring at the white screen, my breath coming in short, shallow gasps. Then I checked my email. There were 3 new messages in my sent folder, emails I had never written, one to the fellowship committee, withdrawing my application, one to a top architecture firm in New York that had offered me a junior associate position, declining the offer with a string of unprofessional insults, and one to the registrar, requesting a leave of absence for mental health reasons. My hands shook so hard I knocked my coffee over, brown liquid pooled across my desk, soaking into my sketches, but I could not move to clean it up. This was not a glitch, this was not an accident, this was a demolition, and I knew, with a certainty that settled in my gut like lead, who was holding the wrecking ball. I drove to my parents' house that afternoon. I did not call first, I just drove. I found them in the sunroom, drinking iced tea, Olivia lounging on the chaise like a cat that had just eaten the canary. She looked at me, and for a split second, her mask slipped, a flicker of triumph, pure, unadulterated malice, then it was gone, replaced by a look of bored concern. "Claire," my mother said, frowning at my stained jeans, "you look frantic, what is wrong?" "Someone hacked my accounts," I said, my voice trembling despite my best efforts. "They deleted my thesis, they declined my job offers, they withdrew me from the fellowship." My father sighed, putting down his paper. "Hacked?" "Claire, don't be dramatic, you probably just clicked the wrong button, you are always so scattered when you are stressed." "I did not click the wrong button, Dad. Someone logged in and systematically destroyed my life." I looked at Olivia. "Do you know anything about this?" Olivia laughed, a light, tinkling sound that made my skin crawl. "Me? Why would I care about your little drawing projects? I have been busy with my brand partnership, you know, actual work." "It is not a drawing project, Olivia, it is $80,000, it is my career." "Oh, stop it," my mother snapped. "Olivia is going through a hard time right now, her engagement numbers are down, and she is really stressed. Don't be selfish, Claire, not everything is about you." Selfish, the word hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. I looked at them, my parents, who saw me as nothing more than a supporting character in Olivia's reality show, and my sister, who smiled at me over the rim of her glass, and I realized then that arguing was useless, screaming was useless. They had built a reality where Olivia could do no wrong, and I was the hysterical, jealous sister. Structural failure usually makes a sound, a crack, a groan, but I absorbed the impact in total silence. I stood up, I looked at the coffee stain on my jeans, then at Olivia's pristine white dress, and I felt that click again, that shift from panic to clarity. "You are right," I said, "I am sorry, I must be tired." I walked out of the house, I got into my car, and I did not go home. I drove to a computer repair shop in the city, but I did not go inside. I pulled out my phone and called Joshua. Joshua was an old friend from high school, a guy who used to sit with me in the library while I sketched and he coded. He was not just a tech guy, he was a forensic data analyst for a cybersecurity firm. Josh, I said when he picked up, I need to hire you, and I need you to be expensive. Claire? He sounded surprised. What is going on? I need you to find a digital arsonist, I said, and I need you to prove they held the match. I did not go back to my parents' house for weeks. I stopped answering their calls. I stopped engaging in the family group chat. I went cold to them. It probably looked like I was sulking, like I had accepted defeat, but I was not sulking, I was working. Joshua came over that night. He set up his equipment on my kitchen table, 3 monitors, a tower of hard drives, cables running everywhere like veins. He did not ask for explanations, he just asked for access. I gave him everything, passwords, security questions, device history. He worked in silence, his fingers flying across the keyboard, his face illuminated by the blue glow of the screens. This was not a remote hack, he said after an hour. They did not brute force your password, they used a recognized device. Which one? An iPad Pro, logged in yesterday at 3:14 in the morning. Location, he pulled up a map, a blinking red dot hovered over my parents' address in Lake Forest. Olivia, I whispered. It gets worse, Joshua said. They did not just delete files, they accessed your student financial portal. Did you have a refund pending? Yes, my tuition refund, $24,500. It was supposed to deposit next week. It is gone, Joshua said, redirected. The routing number was changed 3 days ago. $24,000, that was my rent for the next year, that was my safety net, gone, stolen, by my own sister. Can we trace it? We can trace anything, Joshua said grimly, but Claire, once we find where this money went, you have to decide what you are going to do. This isn't just a prank, this is a felony, wire fraud, identity theft, grand larceny. I looked at the screen, at the red dot hovering over the house where I grew up. I thought about the selfish comment, I thought about the years of silence, and I realized that I did not want an apology, I did not want a family meeting, I wanted justice. Find it, I said, find every cent, and print it out. We spent the next 2 months building the portfolio, not of architecture, but of evidence. Joshua was thorough. He didn't just find the IP address. He found the device ID, he found the keystroke logs, he recovered the deleted emails from the server archives. He built a timeline that was unbreakable. And then he found the money. You are not going to believe this, he said one night, staring at a bank statement on the screen. The $24,000 didn't go to a shoe store or a vacation, it went to a company called a diplomamill.com. A what? A fake degree service, high-end counterfeits, transcripts, diplomas, verification services. It looks like Olivia bought herself a Bachelor of Arts in Communications. I frowned, but Olivia graduated 3 years ago. We went to the ceremony, we had a party. Joshua turned the screen toward me. Look at the dates, Claire, she dropped out sophomore year. The university has no record of her after 2021. The degree hanging in your parents' hallway? It is a fake, she has been faking it for 3 years. The room spun. Olivia had not just stolen my money, she was living a lie, a massive, expensive life funded by my parents and now, by me. She wasn't sabotaging me because she was jealous of my talent, she was sabotaging me because she was terrified. If I graduated with honors, if I won the fellowship, if I succeeded, the contrast would be too bright. She needed me to fail so her mediocrity could hide in the dark. She is scared, I realized, she is absolutely terrified. She is a criminal, Joshua corrected, and we have her. I drafted the affidavit myself, I listed every charge, I attached every log, I compiled the financial trail of the stolen tuition money leading directly to the fake diploma service, I printed it all out on heavy bond paper, I bought a black leather portfolio case, I organized it with tabs. Tab 1, the digital arson, Tab 2, the fraudulent emails, Tab 3, the stolen tuition, Tab 4, the fake degree. I did not send it to the police, not yet. I did not send it to my parents. I waited. I knew Olivia. I knew that as graduation approached, her anxiety would spike. I knew she would need a final, public victory to feel safe. She would need to destroy me in front of everyone to ensure her narrative remained the dominant one. She would try to kill my reputation. I would let her try. Graduation day arrived. I dressed in my cap and gown, I slid the portfolio case into my bag, I walked into the Meridian Institute of Design with my head high. I saw my parents, I saw Olivia, she smiled at me, that sharp, predatory smile. Good luck, she whispered as I passed her, I hope you enjoy the ceremony. I will, I said. I took my seat, I placed the portfolio case under my chair, and I waited. We return to the moment, the scream, the accusation, she cheated. The parents' horror, the room freezing, but now you see it differently, you see the desperation in Olivia's eyes. This isn't power, it is an extinction burst. In psychology, an extinction burst is a sudden, dramatic spike in behavior when a reinforcement is removed. When the manipulator realizes their control is slipping, they escalate, they scream, they break things, they try to burn the house down because they'd rather rule over ash than lose. Olivia is screaming because she knows I am still standing. She deleted my files, stole my money, tried to erase me, and yet, here I am, walking to the podium. She is throwing everything she has at me in one final, frantic attempt to make me disappear. But I do not disappear. I lean into the microphone, I whisper to the dean, he nods. And then, the police arrive, not for me, for the girl in the third row who just publicly confessed to her obsession. They walk down the aisle, flanked by security. My parents turn, confused, then terrified. They see the officers approach Olivia. They see the look on her face crumble from rage to sheer, naked panic. Miss Olivia Hart, the officer asks, loud enough for the first 5 rows to hear, we need to speak with you regarding a report of wire fraud and identity theft. Olivia tries to run, it is a reflex, irrational and futile. She scrambles over her chair, tripping on her designer heels. She screams again, but this time it is not an accusation, it is a plea, Mom. Dad. Help me. She is lying. But the portfolio is in the dean's hands, the evidence is physical, the money trail is undeniable. My parents watch as their golden child is handcuffed. They watch as the facade they spent 20 years polishing shatters into a million jagged pieces. They look at me, standing on the stage, diploma in hand, and in that moment, they finally see me, not as the quiet one, not as the backup plan, but as the architect of their reality check. I do not smile, I do not wave, I just watch. The aftermath was swift. Olivia faced charges, the evidence was so clean, her lawyer advised her to plead guilty immediately to avoid a public trial. She got probation and restitution, but the real punishment was the social exile. The influencer career evaporated overnight. The fake degree was exposed. She had to move back in with our parents, stripped of her pretenses, forced to live in the wreckage of her own making. My parents were silenced by shame. They tried to reach out to explain, but I did not engage. I did not need their explanations. I had my answer. I won the Pritzker Fellowship, $80,000, combined with the restitution from Olivia. I had enough to start my own studio, but I didn't just build a firm, I launched the Foundation, a mentorship program for design students from underprivileged backgrounds, kids who had talent but no safety net, kids who had to build their own walls to survive. I used the money to give them the tools I never had. I taught them how to protect their work, how to document their contributions, how to speak up when someone tried to silence them. I sit in my new studio now. The walls are glass, transparent and strong. The sunlight hits my drafting table, illuminating a fresh blueprint. I am safe here, not because I hid, but because I built a life that no one can tear down. Justice isn't about destroying the people who hurt you, it is about outgrowing them. It is about taking the bricks they threw at you and building a castle they can't enter. If you have ever had to build your own piece brick by brick, hit subscribe. We're building something real here.